Self-actualization. Only once all the previous levels have been satisfied can one move up to the top of the pyramid, this next level being the notorious self-actualization. One must go it alone at this level, and usually must develop the defense mechanisms to deflect the common people trying to pull this unique individual to the lower levels so that they aren't shown up. Courage and strength are crucial to be successful at this level, as it is a daunting task to stand out so firmly from the crowd by questioning the status quo. One should also be, in some sense, a willing fool, not afraid to make mistakes so that they can come to their own independent conclusions. But this comes at a cost of not being able to prove concretely what they believe, since they're in uncharted territory. This means these individuals must rely on their intuition. Individuals at this level often have a deep need to feel fulfilled and will strive to actualize all their latent potentials by finding a suitable life purpose for oneself. Each individual has some inherent inner nature that is in part unique to him and in part unique to his species. This intrinsic nature is said to be good. The individual is only evil when this nature is stagnated or frustrated. This nature is delicate and is not to be thought of as a strong animalistic drive. It can easily be overcome by bad habits or other stronger influences. It is crucial to encourage this inner nature, as it will ultimately benefit the individual and the society at large. It's important we view self-actualization not as a destination one reaches, but instead an ongoing dynamic process of growth throughout life. It should be regarded as being rather than becoming. What does it really mean to self-actualize? In essence, it is finding oneself, i.e., learning what one is good at and what one truly values in life, and then aligning one's actions with these components, which culminates in a life purpose. To self-actualize, one must look inside oneself to discover one's deepest desires and values in order to find direction in the world. You can think of it as looking inside in order to find the compass that will ultimately stay with the individual through the rest of their life. They often have a strong desire for independence and autonomy, since their passion is so individual, and they will not feel complete if this passion is stunted. They have an innate resistance to enculturation, and so they generally have a tendency towards increased attachment and desire for privacy. Individuals that find this purpose often find themselves totally absorbed in their work, to the point where their task becomes intrinsically motivating, and they lose track of their surroundings completely. Their work should come to them effortlessly rather than them constantly striving and forcing their work. Non-self-actualizers have a dependence on other people's gratification and approval, which makes them constrained and limited to the levels of development of those around them. On the other hand, self-actualizers tend to be largely independent of the opinions of other people, because they are self-sufficient. This means other people could hold them back if these others are significantly further down the pyramid. Non-self-actualizers perceive reality and other people in what they can use it for, and so their world is framed in such a way that is only to satisfy their selfish needs. However, with the self-actualizing person, the world is perceived far more objectively, and so they see objects and people for what they really are, rather than what they can gain from them. As one transitions from non-self-actualizing to self-actualizing, there is a gradual transition from egocentrism to being object-centric, in the sense that the individual becomes less and less self-conscious, to the point of transcending the ego completely in the peak experience. They tend to have outgrown the culture they grew up in. They are now members of mankind rather than their nation or religion, because their consciousness is at the global level. This freedom from the bounds of culture and elevated perspective gives them a more balanced and creative character structure, which is beneficial in forging their unique career and healthy relationships. They are open to a wide range of conflicting sources of information, but look to unify all points of view and polarities into a coherent whole. This tends to make them non-judgmental and intellectually honest in general. You'll find a distinct lack of dichotomizing in the self-actualizing individual psyche, because they tend towards harmony over conflict in their thinking. For example, they tend to fuse head and heart, rational and non-rational, selfish and selfless, work and play, masculine and feminine, growth and regression, objective and subjective, even lower needs and higher needs, just to name a few, into an overarching whole. In this way, their creativity can be thought of as an epiphenomenon of their integrated psyche, whereas average and neurotic people wall off larger parts of themselves through fear. As a consequence of the self-actualized person having integrated their inner depths, far more of themselves is available to others for enjoyment and creative purposes. As previously mentioned, they generally perceive reality in a far more objective manner compared to those further down the pyramid. This leads them to be far more likely to follow the objective facts compared to other people, so they gain a more accurate understanding of the world and where it is heading. People at this level generally have the nature of this level in their nature. People at this level generally have this level in their nature from a very young age. Examples of people that have made it to this level include the gifted in intelligence, individuals with a creative uniqueness. This includes the greatest intellectuals and the biggest characters in our culture with their unique style. In this second part of exploring Maslow's pyramid, we will flesh out the pinnacle of the pyramid in order to understand more fully what the human being is capable of at their greatest. Peak experiences. The peak experience is that which only those who have reached the self-actualized level can attain. They are ventures into the self-transcendence realm, in which the individual has some form of mystical insight. There are said to be two parts to the peak experience, the first being the ecstatic sensation, the second being some form of profound intellectual insight. We cannot command the peak experience, it happens to us. During the peak experience, the world is said to look more honest and beautiful, truer than at other times. They are often reported as moments of illumination or of realization, in which something so simple yet profound is revealed about the reality that they inhabit. The distinction between self and other collapses, so that from the perspective of the person undergoing the peak experience, the concept of themselves disappears, and the object becomes the center of their experience. Any notion of time and space ceases to exist under the peak experience, because they are mere conceptions and not part of actuality. The individual experiences a profound feeling as being an essential part of the vast whole of the universe. Such an experience is usually called an experience of cosmic consciousness. It is possible that an individual realizes they are both infinite and nothing simultaneously, and they are creating their reality, so to speak. This is synonymous with the realization that they are God. This experience is thought to be what all the major religions around the world are based upon. This is one of the most profound versions of the peak experience. There are different degrees to